Okay, let's just skip the standard intro today and jump right into a literal life or death secret mission. The year is 1922. We are in the rugged, totally unforgiving mountainous terrain of the Rif region in northern Morocco. And the stakes? Absolutely life or death. Two guys armed with nothing but a notepad and a camera are about to try something that the entire Spanish military could not do. They are going to try and get face to face with the man who had just handed Spain one of the most devastating defeats in its modern military history. It really makes you wonder, right? How does one single photograph actually change the entire course of a war? Well, that's exactly the core of our deep dive today. In the summer of 1922, a Spanish journalist named Luis Doteza and a 19-year-old photographer Alfonso Portela set off on this crazy expedition to find Spain's elusive enemy number one, Emir Mohammed ibn Abdul Karim el-Khattabi. The Spanish public was absolutely desperate for information about their captured soldiers, but the government had locked down the region with a strict media blackout. So, these two journalists, they just decided to break the rules. And listen, this wasn't some breezy train ride. We're talking a nail-biting, multi-day trek behind enemy lines. On July 24th, they try to approach the coast by boat and are literally fired upon by a Spanish Coast Guard vessel. They have to retreat, secretly negotiate with a sympathetic general just so their own country's ships don't bomb them, and try again. By July 30th, they finally make contact with high-ranking RIF officials. And then, August 2nd, the climax. They are led into the stark, white-walled room. Sitting at a simple desk is the emir himself. Now picture the atmosphere in that room. It is an absolute powder keg. When it's time to take the photo, the 19-year-old photographer realizes it's way too dark. He wants to use magnesium powder for a camera flash, right? But he stops dead in his tracks. Why? Because the emir's personal guard has secretly drawn a pistol and has it pointed directly at the back of the journalist's head. The kid realizes, if I ignite this flash, the guards are going to mistake the pop and the bright light for an assassination attempt, and we are all dead. So he very wisely decides to just stick with natural light. Honestly, just getting the emir to agree to sit for the camera was a total masterclass in negotiation. El-Khattabi initially says no, but Oiteza pushes back. He tells the emir, look, the Spanish government is spreading rumors that you're horribly wounded or even dead. Oiteza pleads with him, saying, this must be refuted so the Spanish people see you to know how they were deceived. He appeals directly to the emir's understanding that truth can overpower military propaganda. And you know what? It worked. The emir agreed. When that photo finally hits Madrid on August 8th, the impact is instantaneous. Up until that point, Spanish military propaganda had painted El-Khattabi as a quote-unquote savage, a criminal fanatic leading primitive tribes. But what did the Spanish public actually see in the newspaper? They saw a man in traditional RIF attire, sitting calmly at a desk with an inkwell and papers. He looked sharp, educated, calculating. He looked like a responsible political leader. That single, totally unstaged image completely shattered the government's narrative. It humanized the enemy and suddenly fueled this massive push for diplomacy over endless fighting. But to truly get why the Spanish public was so desperate for this photo, and why the modern Spanish army was absolutely terrified of this guy, we kind of have to rewind exactly 1 year. Let's flash back to 1921. The Spanish army, led by General Manuel Silvestre, marches deep into the Rif Mountains. They are super confident they're just going to easily pacify the region and claim it for Spain. Instead, they walk straight into what history calls the disaster of Annual. Between 13,000 and 15,000, that is the staggering, unbelievable number of Spanish soldiers who lost their lives in just a matter of days. General Silvestre's total overconfidence led a modern European army of over 20,000 men straight into a meticulously planned trap. The command structure collapsed, panic completely took over, and Spain suffered its second-largest military defeat in modern history. So you're probably wondering, how exactly does a group of local tribesmen completely outmaneuver a 20,000-strong modern army? Through absolute military genius. El-Khattabi fought a smart war. Step 1. He lures the Spanish forces deep into that complex mountainous terrain, stretching their supply lines until they snap. Step 2. His fighters systematically isolate the scattered Spanish outposts, cutting off their water and ammo. Step 3. Swift, coordinated guerrilla ambushes. It was a systematic, top-to-bottom collapse of the Spanish forces. And here's the real kicker. This defeat wasn't just a staggering loss of human life. It was a total logistical catastrophe for Spain. The resistance didn't just win a battle, they inherited an entire arsenal. The fleeing army left behind massive amounts of heavy military hardware. We are talking field artillery, advanced machine guns, enormous caches of ammunition. Literally overnight, al-Khattabi's local fighters were transformed into a heavily armed, incredibly dangerous military force. And al-Khattabi didn't just take the military win and go home. By 1923, he evolved this military earthquake into a massive geopolitical one. He formally established the Republic of the Rif. This wasn't just some loose tribal alliance, folks. This was a functioning state. It had its own constitution, its own flag, its own currency. It completely shocked European capitals. A colonized people had just defeated a colonizer and built an independent republic right on Europe's doorstep. And the craziest part? The ideas developed in the Rif Mountains spread like wildfire. I mean, look at who was paying attention. Mao Zedong, Ho Chi Minh, Che Guevara. According to historical records, these global icons of revolution closely studied al-Khattabi's methods. His innovative use of guerrilla warfare, manipulating the terrain, political mobilization, it literally became a masterclass for anti-colonial movements across the globe for the rest of the 20th century. Which actually brings us right up to the present day. Because an event this monumental naturally demands to be immortalized, right? And that is exactly what's happening right now in Morocco. A groundbreaking new Amazigh film called Annual is currently in production, shooting on location in Dar el-Kebdani. Directed by Mohamed Bouzgou, with a script by Mohamed Nadrani, it stars Moroccan actor Rabi Katini, who is taking on the incredibly heavy mantle of playing Emir al-Khattabi himself. But as you can imagine, taking on a historical legacy this massive is never simple. It has sparked a really intense, vibrant debate online. On one hand, you have this immense cinematic ambition, the drive to break old taboos, visually preserve a national hero, and tell this grand story in the Amazigh language. But on the other hand, there's a huge social media debate. A lot of locals and historians are expressing a deep fear of historical misrepresentation. They're worried that a single movie just might fail to capture the complete truth of the man and the sheer complexity of what actually happened. It just goes to show how fiercely protective people are of their own history. So that leaves us with a really fascinating question to wrap up this explainer. Can cinema ever really convey the complete truth of history? I mean, when a single photograph back in 1922 could literally change the narrative of a war, what kind of power does a feature film have a whole century later? It's this profound tension between memory, media, and the myths we create. The story of al-Khattabi proves that history is rarely just left in the past. It's constantly being retold, reframed, and debated. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive today, and I highly, highly encourage you to read more into this incredible chapter of history.